What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to BlackTideTV. On today's video, I'm doing something all new on my channel, and I'm making a template for weapon reviews for Battlefield 4, for Call of Duty, for any kind of game where you want a weapon review. This is going to be my basic template for them, and I'm going to kind of give an example with the SKS in Battlefield 4. So that's the gameplay you're watching right now, and I'm going to kind of tell you guys how I'm going to grade things, what the different categories of my review are going to be, and then I'm going to give an example based on the SKS and this gameplay. So first, I'm going to tell you guys that there are two different categories in my weapon reviews. Basically, there's a first part and a second part. The first part is going to be the attributes or the weapon stats. So the weapon stats kind of they fall under different categories like damage and range and accuracy and all kinds of stuff like that. We'll get to that in a bit. The second part of the weapon review is going to be recommendations. That's how you should use the weapon, what kind of attachments you should put on it, and stuff like that. So let's jump right into the weapon review for the SKS so you guys know kind of what I'm talking about and how this is all going to work. So first, I'm going to talk about weapon attributes and weapon stats. In each of my weapon stats, I'm going to grade the certain attribute between 1 and 5. I'm not actually going to say number, it's going to be a grade. So I've got very bad, bad, average, good, and very good. But that doesn't always have to be good or bad. It can be high or low. It can be based on what I'm talking about. It can be long or short if I'm talking about range, and you'll kind of get the idea as I go through them. So let's start with damage. The SKS has high damage. It's right there at number 4. So it's not very high, it's not average, it's high. Basically, now you know how now you know what I'm saying when I give you that 1 out of 5. So damage for SKS is high. It's usually a 2 or 3 shot kill, so it's high, but it's not super high. It's not like a sniper rifle where it's a 1-shot kill all the time. So it's high, it's a 2 or 3 shot kill. Next thing that kind of relates to damage is range, because with range, with damage, it kind of has a damage drop off over range. So the next thing I'm going to talk about in each of my weapon reviews is range. The SKS has long range, and because it's not super long, it's not sniper rifle long, but it's nothing too special about a DMR, Designated Marksman Rifle, and that would be a long range. So it's got long range. It's not anything special. Next thing we're going to talk. Oh, actually, before I move on, there's actually two different ranges that I kind of want to talk about in each of my weapon reviews. First one is range, and that is its total range, what the range is like. So basically, a sniper rifle would have very long range, a pistol would have short range, or very short range, and then an assault rifle might have anywhere between short and long, and you kind of get the idea. Now there's another type of range I want to talk about, and that's optimal range. Optimal range is where that weapon should be being used. So range could be long, like for the SKS. This is my actual review of the SKS. The range is long. It's got long range because it's a Designated Marksman Rifle, but its optimal range is medium. It's mid-range. So you want to be using this weapon in a mid-range engagement. You're going to want to be competing with your assault rifles on that range, because I don't really think it's a great weapon for engaging in long-range engagements. Next, we're going to talk about accuracy. Accuracy, when I talk about accuracy, is going to be your recoil, the weapon drift, and this weapon sway. So recoil is straight up and down when you shoot it, how much the weapon kicks. A weapon sway is when you're aiming down sights and it's just idle sway, how much it's going to sway. And the other thing is weapon drift, and that's how much side to side it does when you're firing. And all three of those items are all going to be packed up into one rating, and that's going to be accuracy. So the accuracy on the SKS is good. It's got good accuracy. It's not a sniper rifle. It's not going to be perfectly accurate, and it's no laser. It's not like a perfectly no recoil weapon, but it's got very, very controllable recoil. So it's definitely a good accurate weapon. Next, we're going to talk about hipfire accuracy, and I thought it was better to use hipfire accuracy in a different thing than complete accuracy, because hipfire accuracy can vary a lot from the actual accuracy to the hipfire. So the hipfire accuracy on this is actually good. I didn't think a designated marksman rifle would have a really good hipfire, because you'd think it would have a lot of spread, but it actually doesn't. The hipfire on this weapon is very, very decent. I still prefer a secondary weapon when you're in close range combat, but if you're just running around with the DMR and some guy comes around a corner and sneaks up on you and you're like, holy crap, you can really hit them with the hipfire and you can finish them off pretty easily. So the hipfire is good on the SKS. Another thing kind of wraps into accuracy is iron sights. How good the iron sights are. A screenshot of the iron sights, if I'm not using it in the gameplay, will pop up at this point, and you guys can actually see the iron sights for yourself as I explain them. The iron sights for the SKS are kind of weird. They are MP40 sights. Basically, if you've ever played a World War II game, a World War II shooter, and you've picked up an MP40, which you probably have if you're playing a World War II shooter, it's got the exact iron sights as this. It's got the small circle foresight, and it's also got that big bar on the bottom of the hindsight, and it kind of gets in your way when you're shooting. It's not the best, so I gave it average iron sights. You can use them, definitely you can use them at close and mid-range, but when you get into longer range you don't want to be using them, because when you start firing, the weapon's going to kick and you're going to lose them with that big bar on the bottom of the circle. So it's not the best iron sights to be using. I definitely prefer using optics on this weapon. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is handling. Handling basically is a whole bunch of things all packed into one. Handling is your aim down sights time, it's your sprint in and out time, it's your weapon swap time, and it's your weapon movement speed. All of these kind of relate to each other in every single game. They're all pretty much similar if you're using a certain weapon. So I'm just going to put them all into one thing and call it handling. So the handling for the SKS is slow. It's not really that great. All the designated marksman rifles have kind of slow handling. They're slow to aim down sights. They're slow to move around. They're not the best kind of weapons. They're not very slow. They're not like an LMG, but they're pretty slow. So this one gets a slow rating for the SKS, for the handling on the SKS, I should say. Next thing we're going to talk about is fire rate. So the fire rate, as you can probably imagine, is slow. When you're using a long-range semi-automatic weapon, it's going to be slow fire rate. You're not going to be able to spam the trigger as fast as you possibly can. You will jam up the gun. Well, you won't jam the gun, but there's a certain point where you fire and it won't fire any faster, and that's pretty quickly on this gun. So it's got slow fire rate. You gotta take your time, but that's okay because you're probably going to be firing slowly when you're engaging enemies at a range anyways. So it's got slow fire rate, but don't let that discourage you. It's still a pretty usable weapon. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is your magazine size. So the magazine size on the SKS is 20 plus 1. So when you reload, you can reload that extra bullet into the magazine. So you'll have 21 bullets at your optimal magazine fullness, I guess. It's small. For the designated marksman rifles, it's actually the most average size, but I'm giving it a small rating because compared to a lot of the other guns in the game, it's got a very small magazine. 20 bullets is not a whole lot. With the designated marksman rifle, it doesn't really make a difference, but it's not a whole lot. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, still relating to the magazine, is the reload speed. How fast does this weapon reload? This weapon actually reloads fast. This is not very fast, but it's a fast weapon to reload because it's not a special reload. You don't have to pull any primers or anything like that. There's no special animations to reload this weapon. It's pretty much drop the magazine out, put the new magazine in, you're done. It's very, very, very quick to reload this weapon, so it got a fast reload. Now, that's it for the weapon stats. Now we're going to move into the recommendation side of the weapon review. So first we're going to talk about how you should use this weapon, the optimal use of this weapon. So I'm gonna say you should probably use it around mid-range combat. You're gonna want to be competing against the longer ranged assault rifles and the LMGs. You're gonna want to kind of hang back a bit, but you're still gonna want to be on the front lines. I'd consider pairing it with a support class and just getting an area ready and then guarding an objective. If you're playing Conquest, or small Conquest is definitely the optimal game for this weapon. You're going to want to be playing Conquest with support class. You're going to want to stack up in an area, put out your claymores and stuff, and just stack up and get in an elevated position and guard an objective. That's definitely what this weapon is made for. Now, the class. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the optimal class, what you should be using in a class with this weapon. So what I suggest for the SKS is you're going to want to use a secondary that's good at close range. In this video I'm using the Shorty 12 gauge, although I don't think I take it out very much. But you're going to want a Shorty 12 gauge or a 44 Magnum, something like that. That's really good at close range. Now for attachments, that's the next thing we're going to talk about in our weapon reviews, is what attachments you should be using. The attachments for this one, I'm going to say optical attachments. My personal favorite would be an infrared night vision optic, but you're also going to want to run canted iron sights because those flashlights getting in your face are really annoying. But the infrared night vision sights are really good for finding your targets very quickly and engaging them really well. So that's it for this weapon review, guys. That's it for the template. And I'm going to be making more videos, more weapon review videos for all different types of games, mostly Battlefield 4 to start. So I hope you're looking forward to that. I am, although the videos are going to take a bit longer to make, so don't expect one every single day because they're pretty complicated to make. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you all on my next video.